up the River Nile to a realm that's existed since the dawn of time. A place ruled by pharaohs, black pharaohs.
Egyptian art at the time depicted Nubian nobility with darker skin than their own, bedazzled in large earrings, and draped in robes made of exotic animal skins, making them very distinct from the average Egyptian.
The Nubia was a region rich in gold veins, semi-precious stones, ebony wood, incense, and ivory.
This is a forgotten African civilization which, like the Egyptians to the north, built temples and pyramids that would last 5,000 years.
Nubia was known as Kush for 2,000 years. It was home to some of Africa's earliest kingdoms and one of the earliest civilizations of ancient Northeastern Africa. Piye is the most well-known Kushite king who conquered Egypt and became a pharaoh, but other rulers have also left a mark on history. Although the early list of Kush rulers is incomplete, from the currently excavated archaeological findings, there are plenty of monarchs of the Kushite kingdom, many of which managed to become feared rivals of Egypt. Today, we will talk about some of the most renowned Nubian kings. The Kingdom of Kush was located south of Egypt along the Nile Valley. The region was known as the Land of the Bow because of their skilled archers, which were often represented in the art of ancient Kush. The civilization grew and developed from around 2000 BCE to 350 CE. During this time, many kings and queens ruled over the land. Most of the inhabitants of Kush were farmers. Their main crops were barley and wheat, but they also grew cotton to sew clothing. Other than agriculture, iron, and gold, Nubian kings relied on important trade items that include incense, slaves, ivory, feathers, and wild animal hides. Early Kushite kings were buried on beds positioned on stone platforms in the tombs below their pyramids. The pyramids of Kush were often smaller compared to those of Egypt, many of which were constructed close to the city of Meroe. Before we can talk about the kings, it is important to mention the priests. Religion held a pivotal role in the lives of the Kushites. Kushite priests held so much power that they could decide when it was the right time for the king to die. Women were also held in high stature and could be leaders of Kush. Here, we decided to list some of the most influential figures that start with the Napatan period from around 700 to 300 BC. Let's begin. King Alara, Queen Kasaka, date 795 to 752 BCE. Alara is the first known prince of Kush and the first to unify all of Upper Nubia from the Third Cataract to Meroe. He was the founder of the Napatan royal dynasty and a highly respected figure in the Nubian culture. At this time, Egypt saw a general decline in international prestige and wealth, while Kush flourished. For his long and prosperous reign, Alara became a legendary ruler to the people of Kush. Later on, his daughter, Tabiri, became the wife of King Piye. Number 2. King Kashta, Queen Pabachma, date 765 to 752 BCE. Kashta was a successor and brother to King Alara. He greatly admired Egyptian culture, which is why he imported a lot of artifacts from the north. He was known for Egyptianizing the Kingdom of Kush and Napata. During the Nubian invasion, around 747 BC, experts estimate that Kashta conquered Upper Egypt, known as the Land of Reeds. Ancient Egyptians believed that the Field of Reeds was a paradise ruled over by Osiris. The people used reeds to make a variety of items, such as baskets, chairs, boats, sandals, and ropes. They were a raw material often used by the common folk, and considering his love for Egyptian culture, it made sense that King Kashta would thrive to take over this land. His son Piye would later conquer the rest of Egypt and continue to leave a mark in history. Number 3. Pharaoh Piye, Queen Tabiri, Abar, Kinsa, and Peksader. Date 744 to 714 BCE. King Piye was probably the greatest and most powerful Nubian pharaoh who conquered Egypt and founded the 25th dynasty. In the early days of his rule, Piye mostly focused on Nubia. He had plenty of influence in the region, especially in Thebes, that his sister Amenirtis I was installed as God's wife of Amun, holding unprecedented political power and spiritual significance. During his reign, rivalry divided the rulers of Lower Egypt, which created the perfect opportunity for Piye to strike. He was victorious at Heracleopolis, conquering the cities of Memphis, Hermopolis, and others. After his remarkable triumph, Piye sailed south and went back to Nubia, never to return to Egypt. Piye claimed his campaign to be a holy war and a time for his warriors to cleanse themselves before battle, all in the name of the greater god Amun. He reigned for more than 30 years. Number 4. Pharaoh Shebitku, Queen, Qualhada, Mesbat, and Tabakenamun. Date 714 to 705 BCE. During Shebitku's reign, at first, there was a policy of conciliation with Assyria backed by Sargon II, the king of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. After Sargon II's death, Shebitku seems to have used a different policy. He actively resisted any new Assyrian expansion into Canaan. Under the new ruler, Sennacherib, Shebitku sent his brothers to venture from Nubia to the north of Thebes. The Nubian army was said to clash with the Assyrians in 701 BC at the Battle of El Teke. Another stela depicted records of Assyrians attacking Jerusalem and Shebitku marching against them. Shebitku was also known for finishing the decoration of the temple of Osiris-Hekjet, which proves to be a notable feat for their culture and religion. Number 5. Pharaoh Shabaka, Queen, Arti. Shabaka's reign holds a lot of importance because it saw a huge amount of construction work throughout Egypt, particularly in Thebes. Shabaka appointed Thebes as the capital of his kingdom. While he ruled, he strengthened the Nubian kingdom's control over all of Egypt. He also built a pink granite statue of himself in Karnak. Some of the most popular relics of his reign are the Shabaka stone, which records multiple documents of the Old Kingdom. Another relic of great importance is the Shabaka Gate. This is a big stone door that is estimated to guard the room where the king stored all of his treasures. If you're enjoying this video so far, drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel. It's time we tell our own stories and history. With your support, we can spread this message. Number 6. Pharaoh Taharka, Queen, Takahentanamun, Atakebaskin, Naparayi, and Tabakenamun. Date 690 to 664 BCE. Both a king of Kush and a pharaoh of Egypt, Taharka managed to expand trade into Levant. Levant was the crossroad of many peoples and cultures. It played a critical role in agriculture, especially the domestication of sheep. Taharka also organized massive construction projects across Egypt, but the peace came to an end when Assyrian king Esarhaddon declared war on Egypt in 677 BCE and invaded the territory. After 4 years of conflict, Taharka and his Kushite Egyptian army emerged victorious. He then sacked Memphis and successfully invaded Upper Egypt. In Upper Egypt, Taharka tried to reverse Assyrian gains, but failed. The Assyrians drove out the Kushites from Egypt, which put an end to the rule of the 25th dynasty over Egypt. Number 7. Pharaoh Tantamani, Queen, Piankarti, Malakeh, and Salka. Date 664 to 653 BCE. Tantamani wanted his family back on the throne, which is why he invaded Egypt. His actions reignited another conflict. Ashurbanipal led the Assyrians into battle, and together with the Carian mercenaries and Psamtik I's army, they clashed near the temple of Isis in North Memphis. The Assyrians defeated Tantamani, forcing him to flee to Upper Egypt. As a result, Thebes was severely plundered and badly broken. This is known as the Sack of Thebes, an example of horror and destruction that can happen to a major city. This was a momentous event that reverberated across history. The Assyrians took a huge amount of gold, clothes, horses, and other prized materials. They also carried 2 obelisks to Assyria, which weighed about 75.5 tons. Even though Upper Egypt still acknowledged Tantamani's authority during his 8th year rule, the Assyrians ended Nubian control over Egypt. After being weakened, Thebes peacefully surrendered less than 6 years after the plunder to a fleet sent by Psamtik I. Number 8. King Atlanersa, Queen, Khalaset, Malataral, Yaturo, Peltasin, Taba. Date 653 to 640 BCE. Unlike the reign of his predecessors, Atlanersa's kingdom was confined to the region of Kush. Regardless, he still adopted numerous titles of the Egyptian pharaohs. Napata was now the seat of power, and despite their defeat, the Kushites held a prominent influence in the Theban region. Atlanersa was also the second Nubian king to construct a pyramid in Nuri after Taharka. Number 9. Sinkamaniskun, Queen Nasalsa, and Amanamalel. Date 640 to 620 BCE. Sinkamaniskun put all his efforts into Meroe. During this time, Meroe would be the political capital of the Kushite kingdom. His goal was most likely to stabilize the domain, starting with the economy and political power. Number 10. King Anlamani, Queen Matakin. Date 620 to 600 BCE. King Anlamani helped the kingdom of Kush get some of its power back. 2 granite statues of Anlamani were found to commemorate his rule. It is also noted that his mother came to visit him at the temple of Kawa for his official coronation. Anlamani also appointed 4 of his sisters at the national temple of Amun as sistrum players. In ancient Egypt, it was believed that the sistrum had a mystical power. Sistrum players would use this instrument during rituals to honor Isis, Bastet, and Hathor. The kingdom of Kush was known for its large-scale trade routes that provided luxury goods. Famous Nubian kings managed to conquer Egypt during the 25th dynasty, which gave them an active influence over northern African culture. The Kush were very similar to the ancient Egyptians in many aspects, including region, culture. That's because the Kush rulers admired Egyptian culture and religion. Like the Egyptians, the Kushites built pyramids, mummified their dead, and worshipped Egyptian deities. Outside of the ruling class, the Kush priests held significant power. They would communicate with the gods and make laws. In 656 BC, the Kushite kingdom of Egypt came to an end. Yet the Kushite kings continued to rule Nubia. We're just scratching the surface on our history though. If you'd like to learn some more Black history they never taught us in school, click the video on the screen. It's truly a crazy story that everyone needs to hear.